Good afternoon, everybody. Men, women, eunuchs. Today's subject, although I really didn't feel very inspired to make a video, this just popped into my head, and I thought I would share it while I was still fresh on it. And I've been thinking a lot lately, as usual, about ancient knowledge and how it applies to daily living. And a couple points I wanted to cover that I found kind of, let's say, well, a few of the confusing points that I think we need to work on. I put it this way, I was thinking about chants, people who do prophecy, conjuring, all these types of things. Or did in the past, and I'm sure they still do today, but generally the past is renowned for having a lot of seers and whatnot. It's because it spread out over the centuries. Really, they were few and far between. It was those who had enough dedication, perseverance, and training to understand how to mold the world around them in order to see beyond the looking glass, see beyond the veil of this three-dimensional reality. Whether they were seeing the future, the past, remote viewing, psychics, things like that. I think today it's become pretty... I think most people would agree that to one degree or another, psychics have a gift, at least some psychics. I'm not going to go as far as to say that all psychics are, know what they're doing. I see it as a tool, something that has to be learned. Now, I was trying to think of a good metaphor for it, but in physics, you have theoreticians, people who create the theories and the ideas, and then you have the experimenters. Now, these are two totally different kinds of people, and because people, I heard this one girl talking. She said she really wanted to get into physics, but she didn't want to do the boring calculations. And she found out that she could do the experimental, the applying side of things. And it's a totally different type of person who does those things, those two things. Sometimes theoreticians can't really get along with, in a group of people. They might be very private people. Mathematicians, people who are very, very good at math, who become so engulfed in it that trying to express yourself through mathematics is difficult because you forget the level other people are on. So let's say you want to understand a problem. Let's say, how does the Earth rotate in relation to Mars, let's say? And someone who's a very good mathematician can sit there and write out on a board all those little letters and numbers and U's and X's and symbols in some type of crazy trigonometry that you don't understand. It's there in plain sight for somebody who can read it. But for you, as let's say me, the person who can't read that, it wouldn't mean anything. Now, this is because if you want to understand the deeper things, you have to work towards it. You have to learn and understand it. Now, let's apply that to ancient knowledge, wisdom, all the things that people tend to talk about so often. It's not the kind of thing where you can open up a book and find a chant. It's the same way. You can't open up a book and read some numbers or some letters and understand it until you've done the homework to understand what those things are telling you. So in this type of knowledge, in occult knowledge, we also have two different types of people. We have the readers or the studiers, which do the research on the numbers and whatnot. You might call them the theoreticians. But who are the experimenters? I think that's those of us who are taking ancient ideas and putting them to the test in daily life. If someone says, let's say an ancient idea tells us that balance is the most important thing, well, you can't really prove or disprove balance, that's in the eye of the beholder. But let's say it's something like a person who practices this particular type of occult knowledge or philosophy, let's say a person who's into numbers or numerology, that type of person who exposes themselves to that will understand things on that particular level, but not necessarily on other levels. So we have the experimenters, we have the discoverers. I guess the experimenters would be the ones that apply these things to life and say, what can we do with this? So, I really do believe firmly that there's an ancient wisdom that, when learned, I've researched the mystery schools, the mysteries, extensively, and it's really fascinating stuff. But unless you want to dive in all the way and work your way up, there's not a lot you can really do with it. You see, that's kind of what I'm getting at. You can't just dive into math equations either in the middle of a problem and say, okay, I understand this part of it, but not the rest. And that's kind of the comparison I'm trying to make. You either get it or you don't. And, with, let's say, Freemasonry, for example, which I don't bring up often because people always have these strong opinions against Freemasons. But with Freemasonry, you work your way up through the degrees, and you understand certain things along the way. You're building up towards a conclusion, rather, to fulfill. Of course, this, in no way do I believe that Freemasonry in its modern form conveys the mysteries at all. And that's just the thing. It's not what it was meant to be. Freemasonry in its original intention was to escape persecution of religion by applying a different method of understanding God. And the reason why these were secret societies is because folks who don't believe in the status quo have always been persecuted. Every one of us who has gone against, say, the religious majority, the 80% in this country, who are Catholics or Christians, it's a daunting task to try to say, well, maybe things aren't quite what we thought. Each person's going to have very strong opinions on these things. But this is why people always kept themselves quiet in the past when they had these ideas. Nowadays, we express ourselves. If we have something to say against religion or for religion, we speak out without fear of a different religion. They may attack us verbally, but generally it's a discussion. It's not getting stoned to death because you do express your point of view. Religion in the past has been forced upon people, but in modern day, we really have a choice. So with that choice comes all this occult philosophy and knowledge flooding out, which I think became overwhelming, especially in the early 20th century, in the late 19th century. People like Crowley, who took advantage of it and twisted it to his own desires, and some people who basically are picking and choosing the parts that they want in occult philosophy and giving it a bad name. Now, this is no different than the Christians who take, the Bible and give it a bad name by making it a vengeful, angry God and picking out the harsh parts of the Bible. Each, system's going to pick what they want. They pick and choose. And I think that's what we do as humans. It's no bullshit. We pick and choose. No matter who you are, no matter what kind of person you are and how strong you think you are towards your belief system, you cherry pick. Because I know we all do. It's because we have to, You can't accept everything for face value. You have to, I don't know how to really put it into words, except each person knows what I mean in their hearts, that we compromise. We realize that we're not going to have everything we need, and we're not going to know all the answers, but so I guess this whole rambling was basically to say that I support occult philosophy, occult knowledge being used properly. I think, though, today that a lot of that's been lost. A lot of the original meaning has been lost. And the research I've done has led me to believe that each major religion, as well as many secret societies were each given a piece of the pie, a little bit of the key. And it's nice to have this pipe dream that if you put all these pieces together, you get a full pie and you can understand it. But I don't think it's that simple. What I mean by that is each person having a key to this hidden wisdom that was packed away through time. You see, when religion became predominant, many of this ancient knowledge and wisdom had to be hidden away. I mean, look at the libraries, of Alexandria, among many things. How many book burnings, text burnings, papyrus burnings were there that were never marked down in history? Billions of pages through history of wisdom that was written down by people who experienced it, completely thrown out and replaced by something that a few men wrote and believed to be true. And in all cases, it was detrimental to the original knowledge. So a lot of this knowledge was packed away. And honestly, I don't believe that it's the kind of thing that should be available to all people. And that's kind of the conclusion I've come to, is that anyway, the way it's set up is that it should be available to anyone who wants it. But in order to seek it, in order to find wisdom in that knowledge, you have to be ready for it. You have to prepare yourself for it. And that means working on the self. And we're always working on the self, but some people choose to be stubborn and say it is the way it is. I am the way I am, and I'm an asshole, and I'm going to be that way, and it's everybody else's fault. To really analyze when I'm being, to understand myself before I understand the world is a major component of my studies. And as I go along, I'm adjusting that view of myself. And I always remember to step outside and look at myself from the outside. But I really do think that, although I kind of nitpick at certain ideas, like when I say things against certain conspiracies or numerology or this or that, I'm not necessarily picking at it. I'm just kind of opening up the dialogue to say, this is what doesn't make sense about it to me. But I have to say, overall, I think that it all has some truth, because I do believe in the collective manifest consciousness or destiny that we create through our own intentions. So we as a society all have to work together. And this is why we can't just separate and walk away from it all. This is why we can't move up into the hills and be hermits and gurus and monks. And this is why my view of Buddhism, why Buddhism to me is such a perfect idea. Yet, when practiced in its form of, the monks moving up to the hills, this is kind of an escapism. Now, it worked for the time then, but it doesn't work today in the Western world. So what we've done is we've reapplied Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, all these things to the Western world, to the way that we live, and this is how it's supposed to be done. A way of living should be, I guess, adaptable to any situation. And on we go. I guess I better just leave it there, because I could go on forever about this stuff, but I generally I'm fascinated by all occult knowledge, and I just find it a shame that it's persecuted and hidden away by so many religious fanatics who think that it's evil somehow, or that that the word occult means you're in a cult, that kind of stuff, the ignorance. And I think that we're finally growing out of that. People are becoming more educated in all ways, and as we educate ourselves and as we learn faster, we're going to be overwhelmed with information, but eventually we'll be able to sort through that and make it work. I hope. Peace, everybody. I hope you have a great day. It's going to be a nice one. Might as well just, the video's over for this. Don't care about gardens. Might as well show the garden. My kale, my corn, my sweet peas, tomatoes. Yep, we got my tobacco plants flowering out there. Broccoli. Lots of good stuff. I don't know, my broccoli is not doing as great as I hoped it would, but maybe I'll finish out on another awesome broccoli bee. Nature, by observation, can give us the, understanding of a lot of this knowledge. I guess this is the part that I really left out of the video, and I'm glad I didn't turn it off yet. The experimenters, as opposed to the studiers, we're the ones who ask, how does this knowledge work for us in daily life? And often, people have said, if you study this, you'll learn this. And I say, what will that do for me? Or what will that do for us? How will that help us as a society? And I think that's the biggest thing that we're overlooking, Much of religious belief is about benefiting the individual, not mankind as a whole. Benefiting the individual in the afterlife, rewards for his behavior in this world. And I think that's detrimental as well. I'm not here to bash religion, just don't care about that anymore. But it is a reality that we all have to face. We're living with people who believe the earth is 6,000 years old, and we have to deal with that. Oh, nothing better than a beautiful garden. So yeah, we have to remember that we have a lot of different viewpoints on life.